Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today I want to talk about what I think is arguably the best R&B album of the 80s. And this is by Mtume, and it is called You, Me, and He. Before we get into why I think this album is so great, let's talk about that band's leader, James Mtume, because he himself has a very rich musical history, because he is the son of Jimmy Heath of the Heath brothers. Albert Heath, Percy Heath, all made up the Heath brothers, and they played a lot with Stanley Cowell, one of my favorite pianists of all time. So this is jazz royalty, and not just jazz, but a very soulful jazz, a very conscious jazz, socially conscious jazz, really interesting stuff. It could be avant-garde, but it could also be really R&B oriented and accessible, depending on what mood they were in from album to album. And James Mtume played with so many great jazz musicians throughout the first part of his career. Miles Davis, the great pianist McCoy Tyner, one of my favorite pianists, Freddie Hubbard, my favorite trumpeter of all time, and a great songwriter himself. So many different musicians. And then at the end of the 70s, he decided to start his own band after playing with, as I said, so many. I've got a list of the people he's played with: Eddie Henderson, Harold Land, again, one of my favorites, Sonny Rollins, Lonnie Liston Smith on his album from 73, Astral Traveling. Wonderful, wonderful album. He co-wrote, or wrote rather, the song The Closer I Get to You, which was performed by Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway shortly before the latter's death. One of the best songs, frankly, of all time. So many Miles Davis albums, as I said. But anyway, let's get down to when he actually did his own band. And that was formed in 1978. And it was called Mtume. And the first album was Kiss the World Goodbye, which features his own version of The Closer I Get to You. And they came out with so many other really good albums over the years. 1980s, it's one of those days. I'm doing this on absolutely no sleep. But 1983's Juicy Fruit, the title track, was a big hit. But where the band, I think, really just delivered, if you'll forgive the pun, a perfect album was 1984's You, Me, and He. So many hits, and it's one of the, frankly, most sampled albums of all time by the hip hop stars of the 90s and beyond. COD, I'll Deliver, hit. You Are My Sunshine, hit. You, Me, and He, the title track, hit. I mean, to bop or not to be, hit. So many hits all on this album. And I mean, all of their albums, all of the M2A albums were really good. But this one, if you had to pick an album that just perfectly used that 80s funk, 80s R&B sound, heavily drum machine based in terms of the arrangement, the polyphonic synths of the era, wonderful production, wonderful songwriting. It really just, it's the best of the best for that era. And again, the test of a good songwriter is if his songs could be transposed to a different style, a different genre with different arrangements and still remain equally good. And all of the wonderful songs on this album pass that test. Of all of the great albums that Mtume has been part of, this one I think is really the one that he could consider a masterpiece, although the follow-up Theater of the Mind also really good. As I said, there is no such thing as a bad album by Entume. So definitely check it out. You've probably heard many of the tracks, if not most of them, before, even if you might not be as familiar with the name. They even had a brush in with censorship because one of the music videos they made was considered too hot for the MTV. I'll let you decide which one of those is the one. But a great album from a great band. Don't sleep on it. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.